How long did you do the monk thing?
3 years.
And why'd you quit? I mean, is quit the wrong word?
Yeah.
Why did you decide to come back?
It's like asking someone, why did you get divorced? That's the kind of question.
I apologize for the word.
No. It's a good question, but I'm saying that's what, it felt like a divorce. That's how it felt.
Everybody keeps telling me that I need to do more yoga, that I need to meditate more, that I need to embrace all these ancient philosophies to help me manage in this modern world. Sure, that's good. And I went to a yoga class and somebody yelled at me because I took their mat. And at the end of the day, what's so wrong with the modern world? I mean, I can disconnect by zoning out in front of Netflix just fine. In fact, I find it super relaxing. What's the right balance? That's why I sat down with Jay Shetty. He's the host of the podcast On Purpose, and he has spent a career helping people find peace, tranquility, and purpose in our modern world. He actually did live in a temple as a monk for 3 years, before leaving that life to return to our magical and wonderful modern society. And we really got into it. I expected to have a deeply philosophical conversation with him, but what we got was actually quite practical. This is a bit of optimism. Two questions. What's inspiring you right now? What's keeping you up right now?
Oh, that's such good questions. I love it. This is why I came here, by the way, for questions.
Oh, it only goes up.
Yeah. What's exciting me right now is that my monk teacher's about to come and spend a month at my house. And so I'm always looking forward to that. So he's coming in April. He stays with us for a month. I'll get to wake up every day and meditate with him. And
where's he from?
Well, he's actually born and raised in Chicago.
That's where all the best monks come from.
Really?
People don't realize. I think it's Tibet. It's not Chicago.
He hitchhiked all the way to India at the age of 19 years old. So he lives in India now.
Okay.
But he's been living there for the past few decades. So I'm really excited to see
him. And you met him back when you were doing the monk thing?
Yeah, exactly. I met him all those years ago now. So.
Who are you before he comes and who are you after? What's the reset he gives you? I know I have certain practices or friends that who I am after they leave is a slightly different version of who I was before. And I'm curious who you are before him, and I'm curious, because you've done this now, he comes and sees you on a regular basis.
Yes.
So I'm assuming, obviously he's your friend and you want to see him, got that.
Yes.
But you're going to go through a practice with him.
For sure. I'm the version of myself that I want to be all the time when I'm with him. And before he comes, I'm 30% of that version.
And what is that? So when
30%?
when you're with him and you're the best version of yourself, what is it that you're doing or not doing that you're only doing 30% well before?
I'm doing the same exact things, but the quality and the depth is greater by his association.
For example?
So if we're meditating, my attentiveness while meditating is 3x if I'm with him. If I'm reading scripture and spiritual texts, the depth of that revelation is 3x when I'm with him. If I'm reflecting on my own shortcomings and flaws and weaknesses and how I can improve, that strengthened 3x when I'm with him. And so those are all the things. My practice is the same. My morning will look the same. My day will practice.
So he's a multiplier.
The same. He's a multiplier, absolutely.
Got it.
Yeah.
And now what's keeping you up? What's causing you stress?
Just sit and think about that one for a second. Probably that there's not enough hours in the day, trying to fit everything in.
Yeah.
I'm going to be on tour. My family's coming to see us at the same time because they're coming back from Japan, and so I won't get to see them while I'm on tour. There's a million things that I want to do, people I want to see, friends that I want to spend more time with, relationships I want to build, and there's just not enough hours in the day, even if you're waking up early and sleeping late.
That's such a, so what I love about time is it's the great equalizer, right?
Yes.
People have unfair advantages and disadvantages across the board.
Yes.
But time is the great equalizer. And I'm always fascinated how people use time. Mm-hmm. And I think it's fair to say that we are, at least in America, at least in the West, we are productivity obsessed. Mm-hmm. We judge ourselves and we judge each other based on how productive you are. Mm-hmm. I think some of us got a reset during lockdown, but we've all gone back kind of to the way we were, right? And so are you good at stopping? Or are you sort of a productivity machine that's constantly looking for life hacks, how you can get more out of a day, more out of yourself, more out of your team, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
I'm both. So I absolutely love optimization and productivity. Mm-hmm. I think it's one of the most intentional ways to actually live. Because I think there's no intention in life if we're okay with wherever it goes. So I think from an intentionality perspective, strategy is a beautiful thing. At the same time, I'm really fortunate that I've been able to train my mind to, if I was taking a break for the next 3 days, I would lock right in and have the ability to switch off completely from that life and not think about it for the next 3 days.
So you're good at taking a holiday?
Yes.
So when you go away on a holiday,
Yes.
you don't check your email?
No.
You don't call in?
Absolutely.
Nothing?
I can do it at the drop of a hat. So I log out for work every Christmas around the 15th of December, and then I won't log back in until the 15th of Jan. And I've done that.
And you're not afraid of the influx of emails in the inbox?
Not at all, because everyone knows I give very short email replies and probably will not read most of them. So partly it's my ability to not be as harsh on myself.
How do you teach your team to do the same?
To switch off?
To switch off.
It's such an interesting thing, right? I mean, all the studies show we don't take enough holidays, people don't take their vacation. I think the first thing is they need to see you do it. I think if your team sees you do it, they see the value in it. There was one member of my team actually who never took vacations. And if she did take a vacation, she'd be constantly online. And she'd want to check in, she'd want to join the meeting, she'd want to send an update. And I kept telling her that our work is not life or death. It's really important work, but it's not life or death.
Right.
And there is no need for her to have that level of urgency and availability. And for her, and it's different for everyone, for her, I had to convince her that rest made her better at work. Because her driver, her self-worth comes from being able to work really well.
Sure.
That's what really moves the needle for her. And so until she understood that actually when you rest, you refresh. When you rest, you sharpen. When you rest, you get stronger. That's what worked for her. And so I think it's figuring out what's driving people.
But I want to go deeper on that.
Yeah, please.
Because what you did was make a rational argument, which is if you rest, you'll be better, which is very, very rational. And all of us, including her, will agree.
Yes.
Right? But the problem is when your self-worth comes from your productivity, rationally I can understand that rest is good for me and I will sharpen my axe. Until I can separate my self-worth from my productivity, that's the part I want to know, which is how did you inspire her to do that? Because I've had that rational conversation with many people many times, but it's not about the convincing.
And I think that goes back to the example. I think what I said to her, remember, was, hey, when I take that time off every year, I come back with my best ideas.
Yeah.
I come back my most creative, my most curious.
Yeah.
I get the most time to read things I never thought I was interested in. Like, that gives me the space and time.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think the example setting, there's a beautiful statement by St. Francis that I love. And he said, wherever you go, you should preach. Wherever you go, you should preach. And if necessary, open your mouth. And I love that because it's that idea that simply by our example, simply by the way we live, I think people get moved by that, especially if you're a leader. I think that's one of the biggest challenges today is that we as leaders, it's funny, but I'm sure you get this too. Like I'll get parents saying to me, I really want my kids to not be so materialistic. And they're holding a Louis Vuitton handbag in their hand. Or like, I really want my kids to be this way. Or like someone said to me, like, I really want my kids to like wake up early and work out. I really want my kids to listen to your stuff. And I said, hey, do you listen to it when you drive them to school every day? And they were like, no. Like, and I was like, well, that would make it easier, right? Like your kids are at their age where you decide what's on the radio or what goes on. And so I think a really simple way to inspire the people around us is for them to see it in us.
Yeah. What I did this, I implemented many years ago, which is I simply said to the team that if you send an email while you're on holiday, I'll take you out of the bonus pool.
That's so good.
That
wow,
works
I can
really,
imagine them like
that works out really well.
Brilliant.
Works out really well. I remember I sent one email to somebody when I was on a holiday.
Yeah.
And she wrote back to me, what is so important that you're willing to sacrifice your bonus to talk to me right now?
That's so good. I love that.
So that works. That works really well too.
I mean, it doesn't detach their self-worth, but it definitely stops them from pressing send.
But it makes the discovery, right? Which is by creating the incentive. I'm aligning the incentive structure with the behavior that I want.
Yes.
Or in this case, disincentive.
Yes.
And what it does is it helps them turn off and relax, and they discover, because you know this, it takes a few days to like decompress.
Yes.
And,
it does.
And then the holiday starts.
Yeah, for sure.
So like a day off is great.
Yeah.
But it doesn't do it.
Absolutely.
It doesn't do it.
Absolutely.
So I'm very curious because Now, how long did you do the monk thing?
3 years.
And why'd you quit?
Oh, yeah.
Did I put it?
So many.
I mean, quit the wrong word.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to come
it's
back?
It's like asking someone, why did you get divorced? That's the kind of question.
I apologize for the
No. It's a good question, but I'm saying like that's what it felt like, a divorce. Like that's how it felt.
So what was the impetus to do it in the first place?
Falling in love.
How old were you?
I became a monk after I graduated, so 21 going on 22.
Okay, so you're at university.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know what? Finance is not for me.
Yes.
It's the monk life I want.
Yes. And the reason for doing it was as simple. To demystify it was my role models became monks. As soon as I met the monks in my late teenage years, the role models became monks. I was so inspired by the way they lived because they told me that they were focused on two things. One was mastering the mind and serving others. And I thought, what better pursuits in the world than mastering your emotions, your envy, your jealousy, your greed, your lust, your anger, and your illusion, and the ability to use all your gifts and skills in the service of others. And I'd also met CEOs and finance directors and hedge fund managers, and just at that time, no one really spoke to me the way they did. And so I think it was the first real male role models I had that inspired that path. And then what made me leave was the realization that I couldn't do it. Like the actual realization that monk training is meant to make you self-aware through all of that training. And when you get that much self-awareness and realize that I'm not a monk in my own self-awareness, it's probably the harshest thing. So it's almost like saying, I want to love you for the rest of my life. But by loving you, I realized that's not where I'm meant to be. And that was shown to me physically and emotionally. So physically, my health broke down. It was super tough on my body. It was really hard to live communally. You're often sleeping in rooms of 30 to 100 people, whether it's flus, viruses, people getting up at different times. I'm a light sleeper, all of that on the body. And then emotionally and mentally, I was like, I'm more of a rebel. I like the rules, but I want them to fit into my life this way. And I like the discipline, but I'd prefer to tweak it a little. And that honesty of, I'm someone who wants to make these teachings more pliable into my own life, as someone who believes I'm a modern person from London. And I'd love to help other people do that too. So
but what's
that's
interesting,
a quick answer.
I mean, but what's impressive is you lasted 3 years.
Yes.
I'm not sure I would have lasted 3 months.
I'm glad I lasted 3 years. Yeah, it was. Well, I wanted to do it for the rest of my life. It was a genuine desire to do it forever. And when it came crashing down 3 years later, I really felt like a failure. It didn't feel like a success then. Now looking back, I think 3 years was great, but at that time leaving was the worst feeling.
Did you go through a depression afterwards?
Definitely. I'd say for like, I didn't even want to admit it. I was one of those people that actually didn't want to say the word because I was so scared that it would define me and not help me defy
the
it.
D word.
Yeah, and so I left it out of my vocabulary. But when I look back, I think there was at least a year that I was just figuring it out. And I think a lot of that came because when I came out, I just went back to all my old habits for the first 30 days. I was eating everything again. I was watching everything again. I was listening to music that I wasn't before. I was kind of just back into I caught up with the whole, all of the seasons of How I Met Your Mother that I'd missed. I ate like a slab of Cadbury's Dairy Milk chocolate. I was listening to Drake. It was just one of those things. And then after that month, I started looking at my life going, no, I've got the tools to figure this life out. But if I see them as two separate lives, then I would have wasted those 3 years.
So what are 3 tools you learn that every college graduate should learn without having to go to be a monk for 3 years?
Oh, what a great question. The first one is stop looking at your reflection so much. I think right now in the world, we're overexposed to how we look more than we ever have been before. So in the monastery, there were no mirrors. You rarely saw how you look. It was only when you went outside and you looked at your reflection in a shop window or whatever it may have been that you remembered what you looked like. There was this real feeling of I've forgotten my physical appearance. I've forgotten my sense of age. I've forgotten my scrutiny and analysis that we all have in the morning when we wake up and we say, oh, I look ugly today. I look tired today. I look too many spots on my face. I've got these bags under my eyes, this constant harsh, negative criticism, inner critic that we have. I think there's an overexposure. I don't think we were meant to record ourselves and watch ourselves back as many times as we do. I don't think we were meant to look at ourselves on mirrors, screens, reflections, and every possible object. And I think it's made us so physically conscious and physically analytical that we don't actually have time to think about the emotional the spiritual, the psychological. We don't have as much space, and then the physical, psychological, emotional gets filled up with analyzing the physical, and therefore we analyze other people more too. Before we didn't see as many people, and so I think now we're overexposed, overthinking, overanalyzing, but not over our exes.
It's so true, right? Like you're sitting on a Zoom call, noticing yourself and correcting your angle.
Even now I'm correcting myself.
But like you're looking at yourself, correcting yourself while you're on a Zoom, supposedly in a meeting. But if you're in a physical meeting, you don't do that. You don't sort of correct the angle of your head to make yourself look a little bit better in a meeting.
Exactly.
But you do in a Zoom call.
Exactly.
That's funny.
That self-correcting, that self-editing. Not that you shouldn't be well presented.
Sure.
I take care of myself.
You're talking about scale. It's just balance.
Yes,
it's out of balance.
Exactly. So I think that's a big one.
Yeah.
Not having mirrors, and not having mirrors in the monastery was just one of the most freeing things in the world. That, I can't even put into words. It was really powerful. The second thing I'd say is location has energy and time has memory. So when you do something at the same time every day, your mind keeps a memory of it, so it becomes easier. And when you do something in the same place every day, your mind makes a memory of it, and that space has an energy, so it becomes easier. So we would meditate in the same place every day. I was just back at the monastery in January, where I go back every year to start my year. And it was so interesting because today, every day away from meditating that deeply, you sense the weakness of the quality of your meditation. But even now, when I close my eyes, I can be in that room that I meditate in. I can channel the energy of that space. And there's a reason why we all feel certain things when we go to certain places. You ever been to a place and you're like, this place is eerie, it's spooky, this place is historic and powerful. I remember going to, the Wailing Wall and places, in 2017 now. And it's like that place had a palpable energy. Like you can't, whether you're spiritual, religious or not, you feel it there. And so I think we all know that there are places all across the world where we felt something. Why not create those places in our home? And so the construction of energy in a place is something I think we undervalue. We undervalue how sight, scent, and sound can construct an energy. For example, if you had a candle that burns every day when you switch off from work, that scent will lock you into feeling like work is over. If you have a quote by your desk that you read at the beginning of your day, you'll feel that your day is starting. If you have a sound like a gong, which we had in the monastery, or if you have a chime or a song that you like to wake up to or cook to, automatically it puts you in that zone.
So basically, we're classically conditioning ourselves.
Correct.
It's good old-fashioned B.F. Skinner, right? Which is
correct.
Which is, I hear this sound, I smell the smell, I'm in this space, and I've done it enough times that I'm now salivating to the sound of the bell.
Correct. But today we kind of don't use any of those things. I feel like
it's very clever to train ourselves into the right mindset for the day.
Exactly. Or different like let's say you live in an apartment. How do you make different corners of your apartment have different scents, sounds, and sights?
Interesting.
If that's the only space you have. I remember when me and my wife lived in New York, we had a 600 square foot apartment, and one corner was a meditation corner. We're grateful today to have a meditation room, but at the time it was a meditation corner. It was a TV corner. And I think the challenge has become that today we eat where we're meant to sleep, we sleep where we're meant to work, and we work where we're meant to eat. So the energy of our kitchen doesn't allow us to digest. The energy of our bed doesn't allow us to rest. The energy of our workspace doesn't allow us to feel alert.
Sleep experts know this. Don't associate things that keep you awake with your bed.
Yes.
No televisions in a bedroom.
Yeah, no screen.
No screens in the bedroom. And it's not just for the blue light, or it's the association. And people who suffer from insomnia, if you can't sleep, you're tossing and turning. You're supposed to get out of bed, ideally go to another room, or at least go sit in another part of your room. Then you can be on your phone, read a book, get tired, get back into bed, and reassociate bed with tired.
Yes. Yes, exactly that.
Yeah.
It's just, and it's simple, right? It's really simple and it's really doable. You don't have to build a new habit or learn a new skill or learn how to meditate. Like, these are things we all feel. And sight, sense, and sounds are all things we feel, and you can tell it's tangible.
Yeah. Okay, the third one.
Third one, I have to say, what would I go with? There was a beautiful freezing of time that happened. I had no thought of how old I was, that I had to get a job, that I had to find my meaning in life, that I had to suddenly find a relationship.
You sound like a deadbeat living in your parents' attic.
Yeah, exactly. That's really what it was. And there was a beauty in that time froze, that there wasn't this pressure that we all feel through timelines and deadlines and clocks that we all think we have ticking that are imaginary in your 20s. In your 20s, you shouldn't feel like the clock is ticking. You should feel like there is no clock and that you can make choices and mistakes and fail and learn. And so I had 3 years where I didn't think about what birthday it was. I didn't think about what all my friends were doing. I didn't think about whether they bought an apartment, got promoted, or lost their job. It just wasn't what I was thinking about. I could think about mastering my emotions and helping other people, which felt like worthy pursuit.
This is I like this one because I think especially now, because productivity and what are you doing and getting ahead and all of these things are such the priority for so many young people. I love the concept of the gap year, which is fairly common in Europe. But in America, when I talk to young people, I'm like, why don't you take a gap year before you get a job or go to college, whatever your direction is? And I get the same answer every time. If I do, I'll fall behind. Fall behind what? Fall behind whom? And like, we're